I now call to order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, October 15, 2013 at 6:30. Roll call.
Mayor Archie.
Here.
Vice Mayor Slattery. Here. Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Tarpon.
Here.
Commissioner Vance.
Here. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Ken Vineyard of Family of Faith Church. Will everyone stand? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance following.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are grateful tonight that we can come boldly before your throne. We ask you to bless each person here tonight, for we pray for a successful and a productive meeting. We know you are the source of all blessings, and you are our strength. Your word declares for us to trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. So we acknowledge you tonight and ask you for direction. We ask you to bless Mayor Archie and the Tarpon Springs City Council members as they serve your people this day. Give each man and woman the strength and the wisdom and knowledge to make wise decisions for our great town. Holy Spirit, guide us through these discussions and give us wisdom concerning the issues we face. As David prayed so long ago, I pray tonight, show me thy ways, O Lord, and teach me thy path. Lead me in thy truth and teach me, for thou art the God of my salvation, and on thee I wait all the day. I ask you, Lord, to protect all those who support our great town, the firefighters, the police, and all the emergency workers. Let your hand direct and protect all as we do your will, Lord. Let your light shine upon us as we call on your name this day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now go to public comments on any item that will not be discussed this evening. Come forward, state your name, address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Robin Sanger, 36 Ada Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida. I'm here tonight on behalf of Peace for Tarpon. As founding director, I wish to bring before you something that is a commitment that we have made, and that is Peace for Tarpon is working very diligently to make Tarpon Springs a healthier city in every way. That deals with, through our lens, through the lens of trauma. As many of you know from the presentations that I've given you before, the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experience Study, shows us that children experience up to 10 physical or emotional abusive things that will affect them throughout the course of their life. One of those is sexual abuse. And this is a conversation that is not held very often. It's not a comfortable conversation to have, but I think it's very important. So Peace for Tarpon hosts, and we try to do this monthly throughout the city. We've had these trainings at the CAP Center, at Cops and Kids, First United Methodist Church, and on October 30th, we will be holding at Tarpon Springs Public Library at 138 East Lemon Street. It's called a SAFE training, Sexual Awareness Family Education. This will be presented by Suncoast Center, which is one of our great partners. And the numbers behind the sexual abuse in the United States right now are pretty startling. 39 million children are currently affected. And if you think of that in terms of those 39 million children had a physical illness of any kind, how that would make front page news. But this is a silent epidemic, but this is something that through awareness we hope to decrease those numbers. The numbers are 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused. So this will be held Wednesday, October 30th from 6:45 to 8:45 at our library. The information is posted on our Facebook page. I'm going to be passing the flyers down to all of you, and I'm sure if any of your friends want to get some more information, they can also turn to the mayor, vice mayor, and commission to ask for this information if they should need it. And hopefully the city will put it on their website as well. So I appreciate that. It seems like a small thing, But hopefully over time this will have a collective impact that will change our future for the better. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other public comments, we'll go to proclamation. Excuse me. First one is Fire Prevention Month. This reads...
Mayor, there's some people in the back that I think wanted to speak.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. If anybody would like to speak, we ask that you will come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will be given up to 4 minutes.
Jim Cerulis, representing the Spun Factory, 15th of East Boulevard, Tarpon Springs. I'm up here because basically we're a little confused with this new situation with the putting of a product outside on the streets. I understand that a few of the stores maybe overdo it, but I think that there's rules on the books there. If you wanted to take care of that situation, it could be taken care of easily. Right now, though, we feel a lot of the store owners down there, which do not put anything on city property, like our store. I even have an A-frame sign, which I don't put on city property. I put it on my own private property. And right now, I feel like I'm being punished because of 1 or 2 or 3 stores or whoever it is that goes way beyond what they should be doing. So basically, it's I don't know when this is coming up, where it's at what stage this is at, but I would like for the council to consider the stores that do have their own private property, an opening, whether it's a balcony, whether it's open space on the outside, and we're not utilizing city property, I don't think we should be punished. So basically, those are my thoughts, and I would like to know where this situation is and when you will be discussing this situation.
Let me address that because this representative came to see me that's out there, and I'm surprised he didn't relay you the information I told you. But while everybody is here, I'll relay the information I told him. On that issue that we're looking at, I told them that we would look at it from a staff basis, examine the issues that we have been brought up, and we would get back to a final decision of where you fall under there. That process is still going, which I'm surprised to hear about this tonight because I said we and staff would look into it and then get back to you that our decision of looking at the issues you've got with private property and we would give you our staff opinion, and then if there is needed, we would schedule a later time to bring the views before there. So it was just last week. In fact, we just didn't get the letter till Thursday or Friday. So we've begun that I promised to do if they got it in. So we're only 2 days or so into looking into it and examining the situations and see what they are. So we are
as long as we're notified, so we can So
I thought that representative would bring it back to
unfortunately not.
That would do it and stuff. So again, it's in the beginning of the staff review of the issues and stuff to look at the individual issues now to give the commission a whole picture. But we just have begun the process Monday.
Good.
So
thank you.
We will be back to you and let you know, and then we'll let you know if something's coming before here. Are there any other public comments? Then we'll go to proclamations. The first proclamation is Fire Prevention Month. This reads, whereas the city of Tarpon Springs is committed to ensuring the safety of all of those living and visiting our city, and whereas in 2011, home fires killed more than 2,500 people in the United States, the fire department responded to 370,000 home fires in the United States, and whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires, whereas unattended equipment is often a factor that leads to cooking fires, whereas children under 5 face a higher risk burns associated with cooking, and whereas families at a home fire escape plan are more prepared and are more likely to survive a fire, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in home fires in half, whereas Tarpon Springs first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires through prevention and protection education, and whereas the 2013 Fire Prevention Month theme, Prevent Kitchen Fires, effectively serves to remind us to use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Now, therefore, I, David Archie, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Fire Prevention Month, and urge the people of Tarpon Springs to check their kitchens for fire hazards and use safe cooking practices, not only during Fire Prevention Month, but throughout the year, and to support the many safety activities and efforts of the Tarpon Springs Fire Rescue. All right. Well, thank you for all that you do, and we'll definitely try to prevent some fires, hopefully. Are there any public comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 2, it's Florida Government Week. This proclamation reads, whereas city government is the government closest to most citizens, the ones with the most direct daily impact upon its residents. And whereas the city government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities, and whereas city government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along their understanding of public services and their benefits. And whereas Florida City Government Week is a very important time to recognize the important role played by city government in our lives, and whereas the week offers an important opportunity to spread the word to all the citizens of Florida that they can shape and influence this branch of government which is close to the people, and whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities have joined together to teach students and other citizens about municipal government through a variety of different projects and information, whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity to convey to all citizens of Florida that they can shape and influence the government through their civic involvement. Now, therefore, I, David Archie, by virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, do hereby proclaim October 20th through the 26th as Florida Government Week 2013. We'll be mailing this one. The next one that we have is OHE Day 2013. This proclamation reads, whereas October 28, 2013 commemorates 73rd anniversary of Greece's refusal on October 28, 1940 to surrender to Mussolini's Italian fascist government. And whereas the historic statement, OHE, which means no in Greek, played a pivotal role in the ultimate victory of the Allied forces in World War II, whereas OHE Day is an inspiration to those who cherish democracy and freedom, and whereas this occasion commemorates a significant event in the history and life of the Greek people, and whereas the Greeks faithfully met their obligation to the Allies and their country with courage, self-sacrifice, determination, and dedication. Now, therefore, I, David Archie, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, do hereby proclaim October 28, 2013 as OHE Day in Tarpon Springs, and urge all citizens to honor and celebrate the memory of the brave patriots who fought for freedom not only for themselves, but for all the free world on this important day. I don't know if Mr. Sasoy is here. If not, we'll make sure that he gets that. With that, we'll go to our presentation, and we'll have the pleasure of having someone we think is the best school board member here with us. Ms. Robin Weichel, and she'll talk to us about taking stock in children's mentoring program.
Thank you, Mayor Archie. Good evening, Mayor Archie, Vice Mayor Slattery, and Commissioners. My name is Robin Weichel, and staff. I have to, and Chief Coach. And my name is Robin Weichel. I'm a citizen of Tarpon Springs and a Pinellas County School Board member. And thank you, Mayor Archie, for the shout out. But tonight, I'm a member of the Pinellas Education Foundation Doorways Take Stock Committee. I've been on that committee since I became a school board member 5 years ago. Pinellas Education Foundation, the mission of the foundation is to enhance and improve educational opportunities in Pinellas County. And FYI, the Pinellas Education Foundation is among the top 10 foundations in the United States and the #1 foundation in the state of Florida for educational initiatives and money raising or fundraising. So we're very proud to have the foundation support our public schools. The Pinellas County Education Foundation would like to recognize tonight the City of Tarpon Springs leadership, you, for supporting the vision that every student will be prepared for the life after high school, whether the choice is to attend college, to enter the workforce, or to obtain technical training. Tarpon Springs continues to value education through mentorship, leadership recognition, teacher appreciation. The Pinellas County Education Foundation has approached you with opportunities to implement parts of the nationally recognized mayors, mentors, and more. And you have continued to increase your commitment, dedication, and service to the Pinellas County students. On a personal note, I believe they also wanted to recognize you for putting up with me and my constant bugging of you, Mayor Archie, City Commissioner or City Manager Mark LaCouris, and every commissioner here. You epitomize what a board, a commission should do for their public education. I am constantly bragging on what we do here in Tarpon Springs, and I think the other cities, large cities, can get noticed, but you do so much, and Chief Coach and yourself also for taking my phone calls on prescription drug awareness and numerous things that we tend to have our hands in the Pinellas County school system. So this plaque is not from me, it is from them, to thank you for your support, all of you supporting education. And I just want the citizens of Tarpon Springs to know we have a commission and a mayor that value education. And we should be very proud to live in the city and know that it is on their top priority. So if I may, I'm not sure the rules here, may we have a photo op for the Pinellas Education Foundation, Mayor Archie? Or do you want to do that later? I don't want to mess up your flow of work.
Hey, the boss over here said later. I don't know what later means to us,
May I have a quick photo op with the board in the front? And actually, I would like staff to, if that's okay. Thank you. Last part of my presentation, I gave you a little shoe magnet. The Take Stock in Children mentorship program supports our scholarships, which you also support our scholarship. Through Rotary Club, we have our Doorway Scholarships in Rotary. We have our second annual 5K race, and I wanted to invite you. We have a little magnet to maybe you can come. Dr. Grego, the superintendent, and myself actually are supporting teams, and we have a competition to see which one of us can get the most people on the team. So I would love to have city commissioners or the mayor walk on my team. But anyway, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you. I'm not sure what I did with my magnet, so I don't know if I can be on your team or not. Nah, that's all right. You might want to be on the team too. Thank you. But I just like to say that, you know, we definitely appreciate all that you do, Robin, as far as for the city of Tarpon Springs, and for me, and I know my colleagues, is that quality of life is important. And we know that education is one of the foundations, if not the foundation, for the building block as far as having a good city. So we appreciate your efforts in terms of with the Palm County Schools, and you know, I know we've made a commitment, myself and the city manager, to be involved as far as mentoring the children officially. Because I know with him and myself, we both do that as just a way of life, but we want to do even more in leading out for the employees of this city. So we definitely appreciate you and your efforts, and we will be in the schools. I don't know if anyone has any comments, any public comments on this item. Seeing none, we'll then go to Chamber of Commerce Beautification Award.
Sue Thomas, President, Tarpon Springs Chamber of Commerce, 111 East Tarpon Avenue. As you are painfully aware by now, once a month we honor a business in Tarpon who has fixed up the front of their business. We started this, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we started it almost 4.5 years ago because we had so many businesses that really needed some paint and some spiffing up. And we now have businesses calling us and saying, okay, I painted, I planted things, can I get an award? But Doug wasn't one of them. We found him. One of the things that we find is that you'll say, oh, they're in Bradley Plaza or they're in Manatee Village. And I'm like, where? So if I say Winn-Dixie, does that help? Doug Brewer is Senior Vice President of NREL Properties, and they are the property manager and, I guess, owner of Manatee Village. And for a long time, it just kind of sat there and looked kind of blah. And I'm probably not supposed to say this, but Doug's wife was the one that came up with the idea to paint it. It looks wonderful, and we're very pleased to give you this award. I'd like to introduce you to Doug Brewer, and congratulations on making it look so wonderful. You want to talk a little bit about your property? Sure.
Well, on behalf of NREL Properties, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for this award. It's actually extra special to me because I live locally. I live in Palm Harbor. My family and I come up to the the Sponge Docks, to Fred Howard Park quite often, and every other year we go to Tarpon Springs High School to see Eastlake High School hopefully beat the Spongers, but it doesn't always happen. Actually, a pretty entertaining games typically. I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about NREL Properties. We've been in business about 30 years. We own 45 office buildings and shopping centers throughout the southeast United States. We're in 10 markets in 7 different states. And locally, besides Manatee Village, we own 4 shopping centers and 1 high-rise office building in downtown Tampa. We own Rivergate Tower. Most of you may know it as the Round Building or the Beer Can. We like to refer to it as the champagne bottle, but that's really not catching on. The beer can seems to be the moniker that is sticking. And before I leave, I thought I'd just make one shameless plug for our leasing efforts. We have about 4 or 5 vacancies at Manatee Village. So if anybody here knows any retailers, whether they be mom and pop, local, national, regional, please have them call me, see me. Contact me via email. I'd be very happy to give them a great deal, great location, in a great city. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you and Manatee Village for your beautification there, and we definitely hope that all of those vacant units that you have are taken up, because you're right, this is a beautiful city, and we love it. So, thank you. Any public comments on this item? Then we'll go to item number 6, 1,000 Friends of Florida Better Community Award, and I guess Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Charles Patterson. I'm president of 1,000 Friends of Florida. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that was incorporated in 1986 to advocate for good growth management and smart growth in Florida. And since 1990, we've been recognizing communities and individuals and different organizations around the state that have demonstrated innovative ways of dealing with growth and development in their communities. And I can also tell you that 1,000 Friends of Florida is one of the few groups of its kind that recognizes the key linkage between affordable housing and quality of life in our communities. So we're pleased tonight to announce that Oak Ridge Estates in Tarpon Springs is being recognized with one of our Better Community Awards. We give these annually. They are for plans that have been implemented or projects that have been built and completed that can be replicated in other parts of Florida that demonstrate using principles for smart growth to create livable communities. Let me say a few things about Oak Ridge Estates. It's an outstanding model for communities seeking to promote infill affordable housing in older and historic neighborhoods. It meets a community need in an architecturally compatible and sustainable manner. This $11.4 million project replaces 5 public housing buildings scattered through the Union Academy neighborhood. The townhouses and garden-style apartments provide 62 multifamily affordable housing units serving households not exceeding 60% of median income. It was designed in a bungalow style to be compatible with the neighborhood, and the buildings have received a bronze level certification from the Florida Green Building Council. The local community housing corporations of Tarpon Springs Housing Authority sponsored the project with funding secured through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, home funds from Pinellas County Community Development, and the Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development approved the demolition of the 5 existing public housing buildings to make way for Oak Ridge Estates. The project was co-developed with Pinnacle Housing Group, a nationally known affordable housing development company. Our Affordable Housing Director, Jamie Ross, agreed that it takes a great deal of work and effort using financial resources to redevelop affordable housing. She noted that Oak Ridge Estates is more evidence of why it's so important for Florida state and SHIP trust funds to be used for housing, where a small amount of SHIP funds were leveraged to make a huge positive impact here. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Tina Wilkinson, Chair of the Tarpon Springs Housing Authority, to come forward. I believe she's going to bring a few more people up.
Hello, I'm Tina Wilkinson. I'm the Chairman of the Housing Authority, and I'm nervous. Thanks. My co-chair is Melissa Baird. I don't get to sit here by myself. And Robin Singer. See? That's all that's here on the board. Also, Bobette Brunick and Linda Herring, Al Logan, and Linda Combs, and they're not here today. We also have staff here, our director, Pat Weber, and then 2 of the Janine and Deb. We couldn't do it without you. I want to say thank you for this award. I also want to recognize Frank Bowman, the Pinellas County Commission Community Development Lender, and Lisa Stevens is our co-developer. I want to say that we are very pleased to receive this award. I want to invite all these members to stand with me because it's a group effort. We love this city. We're going to promote affordable housing, quality housing for all of our citizens now and for the future. We have projects in the works, so with your help and with the county's help and with the state's help, we can provide Tarpon Springs with some quality, affordable housing for our citizens. Thank you.
Right. Why don't we do that? This is an original watercolor. We actually worked with an artist for the last 20 years in Quincy, Florida, and she always does an original watercolor for the awards. And this was a scene that the Housing Authority asked her to use for her painting. And it's been our privilege to recognize the Housing Authority. Too often in the past, communities have torn down neighborhoods for new development, and this is an outstanding example of how to do a redevelopment that benefits the entire community. So congratulations on behalf of 1,000 Friends.
Well, I'd just like to first thank Mr. Patterson and 1,000 Friends of Florida for your wisdom in selecting the Tarpon Springs Housing Authority under the leadership of Ms. Pat Weber and the board that helped to lead and guide the Housing Authority for their efforts in this project and hopefully future projects. But I can say that truly ever since Ms. Weber came into our city, she's been making a difference. I won't talk about what the Housing Authority was before, because even if it was doing great things, it's doing better things now. And we definitely appreciate all that they do in terms of affordable housing, with the understanding that, sometimes people think that affordable housing means anything that you give an individual or allow them to live in is acceptable. And that's not what Pat has believed in, and that's not what the board has believed in, but believe that you can provide somebody with something that you yourself wouldn't mind living in. So we just want to thank the Tarpon Springs Housing Authority and Ms. Pat Weber for all of their efforts. And thank you for bestowing this honor upon them.
Congratulations to the city again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you. I just want to give a quick thanks as well to Mr. Patterson and all of the board. Certainly the project is compatible architecturally not only with the Union Academy neighborhood but throughout the city of Tarpon Springs. It's a great project. We're proud to have it, and we look forward to working with you more in the future. Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 7, Public Art Committee.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Pearson with the Tarpon Springs Public Art Committee, 138 East Lemon Street, Tarpon Springs. While we're setting up here, I would like to say a good evening to you all, Mayor Archie, Vice Mayor Slattery, the commissioners, and of course the staff. We are delighted to be here tonight because after several years of existence, we can come to you with our first proposal, recommendation for a piece of public art to be installed in the city of Tarpon Springs under our auspices. So it's a pretty exciting time for us. You each have before you a packet that includes the information that we'll be covering tonight. Before presenting those specifics, though, I would like to also introduce my colleagues, Suzanne Murphy and Lisa Sibley. Good evening. Hello. They will be helping me with the presentation. We will, in all of our endeavors in looking at public art, we kept in mind a very strict criteria that is established in the 2010 5-year program master plan. And those include qualities that we need to address when we're considering public art in this city. Some of those include the goal of the project to meet the needs of any partner agencies and neighborhoods, appropriate site and environmental conditions, and immediate social and physical environments. We expect it to meet the artistic standards as set by museums, universities, and other public art programs, and that it meets maintenance requirements to ensure against excessive repair costs over the life of the artwork. We expect it to meet safety conditions that bear on public safety, and we expect it to contribute to public art collections through the diversity of style, scale, and media, and that it maximizes the public art budget so that we can acquire the greatest amount of quality art to show in our town. And with that, I would like to go to Suzanne to talk about what we're talking about.
Well, actually, presenting tonight. I'm going to tell you about the Ama Mermaid. She is our very first proposed installation of public art in Tarpon Springs. She is a 6'4", 360-pound bronze sculpture created by the artist Amaryllis, who lives in France. She's named Ama after the female Japanese pearl divers, who are also known as Ladies of the Sea. Her full name, if she comes to Tarpon Springs, would be Ama Tarpon Springs, or a name that we would like to give her. She would bear on the base, at her feet, or her tail, she would bear the latitude and longitude of Tarpon Springs, and the artist would create something special in bronze that would represent Tarpon Springs, perhaps a basket of sponges to represent our sponging history. One of the artist's requirements is to place her Ama mermaids near water. We are a water community. The Gulf waters, the Anclote River, the bayous. Bayous protect our manatees, and manatees have a special relationship to mermaids. The sailors at sea and even the sponge divers long ago thought that manatees were mermaids. We also have a Greek heritage, and Greek literature is threaded with mythology about sirens and mermaids. So with all of that in mind, we thought that Craig Park on the bayou would be the perfect place to put the mermaid. So that is our proposed site installation at the entrance to Spring Bayou. Next one. If you look to the left at the top slide, you can see the Park and Rec building with the starburst. Follow all the way to the right, and that is the northwest promontory of Craig Park, the entrance to Spring Bayou. Below would be the mermaid looking out to the water, and we think that this is the perfect place, that it's a pure place with grass and trees and water. There's nothing else there, and she would be there to greet boaters. This mermaid has in the past been installed very simply on reinforced concrete pads. These are pictures that were sent to us of one installation, but ultimately the specifics of her installation would be left up to the city. The city would direct how that is done.
This is a temporary installation for 3 years. She would be with us for 3 years. The project sponsor, and Lisa will explain about this, the project sponsor will air freight this mermaid sculpture to Tampa Airport at no cost to Tarpon Springs. The sponsor will also fully insure her through transit, installation, and the 3 years that she would be with us. Now, there's one more thing. This project has a very interesting give back to the community, and Lisa Sibley is going to tell you how Art for Charity works and how it came to the TSPAC.
Thank you, Suzanne. Good evening, everyone. The project was brought to us by Philip Jepson, who takes care of a website called Mermaids of Earth. And he is the ambassador for Kohinoor, which is a company out of Germany, which is the sponsor of the Amaryllis sculpture. That's okay. Technical difficulties. Philip grew up in Denmark, which is also the home of Hans Christian Andersen, the author of The Little Mermaid. And in Copenhagen, the Little Mermaid statue is very prevalent, one of the most popular cultural icons that their country has. So throughout his life, he has become interested in mermaids. But what Kohinoor will do, Kohinoor has placed 17 AMA mermaids in prominent countries throughout the world. Monaco, Thailand, France, Germany, to name just a few. Tarpon Springs will be the only AMA mermaid on the east coast of the United States to date. There are only 2 others in the country to date as well. We have asked for a 50-mile exclusive radius so that no one else within our waterfront communities would have an AMA sculpture in their community. The purchase price of her is $20,000, and a third of the proceeds will be donated to a local charity that the Tarpon Springs Public Art Committee and Kohinoor will agree upon. If she is not purchased, she could go up for public auction. If she's auctioned and somebody does purchase her for a private installation at their own home or business, we would start this process over again so that we would continue to have the tradition of the Amaryllis mermaid at the entrance of our spring bayou. And I think that's all for that for now.
Now on to some numbers. And the numbers are important. And particularly looking at a timeline. We would like to have the Amaryllis sculpture, if it is approved, to be on the bayou before the Arts Festival the first weekend in April of 2014. That would be, to me, an auspicious time to celebrate with many people coming, just not only for the Art Festival, but to see this wonderful piece. Consequently, our goal would be to take delivery by mid-March, and that would take into consideration the 3-month time frame that is needed for delivery once the order is received. The only cost would be transport from Tampa to Craig Park. Our committee has earmarked $2,500 of our 2014 public art budget for this project, and out of that, $500 would cover the transport cost as quoted by a qualified shipper. We believe that having this sculpture would bring innumerable economic benefits to this city. 170 mermaid sculptures exist around the world, and we would be part of a very relatively exclusive club. The Little Mermaid, of course, as earlier mentioned, is the #1 draw for visitors in Copenhagen, and we could reasonably expect an increase in tourism both from the region, nation, and internationally. And, of course, we have a history of an interest in mermaids with the Wiki Wachi just up the road from us. We could expect perhaps special festivals and opportunities to celebrate the mermaid, perhaps bring back the Manatee Festival. She would be included as part of a walking tour of city landmarks and art, and so forth. Those would all be, I think, wonderful options that we could consider to have with a sculpture like this in our community. If there was an interest in purchasing the statue by the city, then a fundraising effort could be created, a campaign to raise the funds, which would certainly put out awareness of the sculpture. And in any case, any sale of it, any auction of it, still guarantees 1/3 of the profits going to a charitable organization within Tarpon Springs. I think that covers the information that we have to share. I want to thank you for your time and listening to us and considering this project, and we look forward to your comments and any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you for bringing this forward. Just for clarification, you said that even if it's sold by auction, 1/3 of that still will go to a local charity?
As long as the $20,000 minimum is met, yes.
Okay.
And anything over and above that, that extra money would also go to the charitable group. In other words, if it's sold for $20,000, 1/3 would go to a charitable group. But if it sold $25,000 or $30,000, then an extra percentage would go back to that group.
When it's sold, who's going to be responsible for the shipping costs then, as far as getting?
Well, whoever purchases it
would
then take the responsibility.
Okay. And I guess that those are the questions I have. And the $500 has already been earmarked for the public art.
Yes, we have $2,500 earmarked for the project as a whole, and out of that $500 is what we have been quoted as transportation costs from the Port of Tampa Airport to Tarpon Springs.
Commissioner Larson.
Thank you. I'd first like to thank the Public Art Committee for all the work that you've been doing on this project. I think it's exciting. I think this sounds like an exciting project for the city. The only question I really have is kind of a follow-up to the mayor's question in regards to, who would need to pay for delivery if it is sold and things of that nature. I'm just wondering if you've had an opportunity to meet with the city attorney or staff to hammer through any contract-type stuff that needs to be handled.
Yes, we have begun that process. It's not complete, but we have been pulling together the requirements that the city attorney wishes from us, which includes the quotes and so forth, as well as the contract. All of that is being worked up and provided.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
I think this is an excellent project, and the location is perfect as well, right there on the bayou at that point. And was there any additional talk about lighting for it at night?
That certainly would be something that would be talked about. I think we didn't want to put the cart before the horse, but certainly we have discussed other options in enhancing that location. I mean, in theory, particularly if the city was interested in keeping the statue and we were able to do so, maybe a bubbling fountain could be created where she would stand and that type of thing. There, I think, be many ways of enhancing that area.
I think it's a great project, and I would hope if we get it, we can get the artists down here for sure, and maybe draw some more attention to Tarpon Springs that way, and hopefully as well, like you mentioned, if it's on schedule, would it be installed by the art show, you said?
That would be our hope. If we could get, once the approval is made and all the details are agreed upon by the city and so forth, then we would be able to put in the order, and it's a 3-month time frame after that. Did you have something to add, Suzanne?
Well, I just wanted to address Commissioner Banter's comments. It's my understanding that that Kohinoor, the sponsor, would do quite a bit of promotion about the installation of the mermaid in Tarpon Springs.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The Kohinoor has it is a charitable foundation that they've created that allows this to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here this evening, and this is an exciting project for our community. I absolutely love it, and I wanted to mirror what
Commissioner Banther was saying about lighting, I would love to see her lit up in the evening, just a couple, dim lights maybe around her. I think this is so exciting. This is another destination for Tarpon Springs again, for people to come, and just puts us back on the map again for another great reason to come here. So I thank you for all your work with this. And we were just, I learned that, this was somebody from another city that brought this to our attention. Yep. And I'm thankful that they didn't put it in there, It didn't even come up to put it over there in Dunedin. But we're really blessed that this is kind of fell in our lap, and I'm really excited about the project. Thank you. She's a gift from the sea. Yeah.
She is indeed. In fact, we've had great time envisioning how she would look around the year, and I can just see at the Christmas holidays the boat parade coming up and Anna being lit up. I just think there are a lot of wonderful opportunities to enjoy that sculpture here in Tarpon Springs. Thank you again for your allowing us to present this.
Mr. Tarpon. Thank you. I'd just like to say congratulations to the Public Art Committee. I feel like this has been a long time coming. I, for one, have seen a couple different presentations at year's end and budget time from the Public Art Committee, and I feel like we've been waiting for a project. So I'm finally glad to see a project of this magnitude and one with such a reputation and found in other parts of the world finally come before us. So congratulations on that. I think that the location is spectacular. I mean, what a great place to have not only, a sculpture of a mermaid, but just a great place for our town in general and Craig Park on that point. I don't think that if it should be the desire of the community to own this piece of art, I don't think there'll be any issue trying to come up with or raise the money to purchase it. So congratulations, and I commend the committee for the way you went about presenting this project to the community versus just coming to the commission at first bluff. I commend you on going to different people within the community and different organizations to inform them about it prior to this meeting. So thanks again.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And I would like to especially recognize Suzanne and Lisa. They have put a tremendous amount of time and energy in connecting with individuals and the community as a whole. And it's been, I think it shows. Thank you.
Thank you for connecting with us.
Don't entertain a motion. Business presentation. Let me give you my synopsis. First of all, what we're looking for tonight is the consensus of the board to go forward. Obviously, when we would bring it back to you is when we have all of the contracts, the information on insurance, all of that stuff approved and set by the city attorney. Then we bring it back to you for the final approval. But for now, we're just looking at the consensus to move forward and bring that to you. And as soon as we get all the legal ease out of the way, and then it'll formally come back for you to endorse to go forward with. Okay. There's no objection. So, any public comments to this item? Seeing none.
Sue Thomas, President, Tarpon Springs Chamber of Commerce. This project, as far as we're concerned, is absolutely wonderful, and I really hope that you will get it approved in time for the art show. This is April 5th and 6th is our 40th annual Fine Arts Festival, and we haven't finalized our poster yet. So this might be a perfect thing for our poster to really promote it. And where it's going to go does not affect the art festival at all. We just kind of move things down a little bit. So we need to talk more, but if we can get it done in time, this would be a wonderful, wonderful addition and a lot more publicity for it. We'll even print extra posters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, because I understand we're not actually voting on anything this evening. It's going to come back before us at some future time. Is there any time crunch? When do you need approval by in order to meet your deadlines?
Again, whenever they can get that contract and all the final stuff set, it's real easy. I'll set it for the meeting. So as soon as we get everything finalized, the insurance, the contract, and everything, if they give me notice, I can have it on the board the next meeting. So,
thank you.
With that, we have an addendum item to 2015 state budget line item request proposal. Dr. Monahan.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. I am proposing to the Mayor and Board of Commissioners that the City of Tarpon Springs request a $1 million line item in next year's state budget for much-needed upgrades and renovations to the Tarpon Springs Performing Arts Center. Some of you may recall that the establishment of this hall, which successfully doubles as a city meeting hall, was created out of what was once a high school gym and auditorium. And this was done with state grant money and city funds, and that was over 21 years ago. There have been no improvements or upgrades since 1993, and much of the equipment, such as theater lighting, sound equipment, are being nursed along by our hardworking and theater technical staff who are just treat the equipment as if it were their own. They are so careful with it. They've taken great pains to repair and replace elements of systems that have been outdated. This Band-Aid approach can't go on much longer. The carpeting needs replacing, seats need to be reupholstered, so the curtain needs to be replaced. And there are curtains behind this one that need replacing as well. Lighting and sound systems need to be upgraded, dressing rooms and bathrooms and box office renovated, and the dais possibly redesigned. A city of this size cannot afford the renovations listed, yet in order to keep attracting more and more audience members to serve our school children and attract new visitors to Tarpon Springs, we need to address these needs. Grant funds are few and certainly not at this high dollar amount, and this is a non-matching amount where grants, if we were able to get them, and they would be at such a low level that we'd never get anything accomplished to speak of, would be matching. Other theaters around our area in Clearwater successfully got line item designations in their in last year's budget. Clearwater got 2 grants, line items approved in the last fiscal year. And I think that we are at least as deserving, if not more, to receive such dollars. As I said before, we're a small city, but we have great programming, we serve a great number of people, and our audience numbers are growing. The schools we serve, more and more children, and more workshops that attract young people. In addition to the fine advocacy work that you as a city commission and the mayor can do, we have 80 volunteers and 540 paid members of the Tarpon Springs Performing Arts Center, over 50% of which live in Tarpon Springs, who can be called upon for helping with advocacy for this project. In addition, those who don't live in Tarpon Springs will also add their voices. And I think this is a good year to request such a line item, and the fact that other theaters have been successful. It's not as if the legislature will be shocked to see another theater asking for support. So I just want to bring this to your attention and kind of get a feeling of what you all think.
So you're just looking for a consensus of
to pursue it and try to keep a calendar going of what we need to do as a city to mobilize our forces. I think it's a win-win. As you know, as I said, the carpet is getting threadbare, and replacing it and taking up all the seats, and the whole thing needs to be done as a whole. I think some of you may have experienced some of our dressing room issues. And as I say, if we want to compete, we have the programming that competes well with I'll put our programs up against any theater in the area, and our publicity materials are top notch. And I think
you don't have to sell me. I just want to know.
I'm doing this for. I'm starting to advocate. I think we say
that because you need that in Tallahassee.
All right. Just so that you know, we did get a legislative item for the Heritage Museum years ago. So we've done it before, so we can do it again.
I have no problem in supporting this. We've been recognized around the Tampa Bay area continuously as far as what is done within this facility. Others are doing it. I have no problem in supporting it. We know that there's definitely some work that can be done to upgrade this facility, to continue to look at the quality of program that you are able to attract here. So with that, I don't know if anyone have any comments or for Mr.
I just have a question for the city manager. I know in I think it's the 2015 budget, we have over $1 million for City Hall renovation. Is any of that money allotted to this auditorium?
No. That's mainly saving the building, sealing it, and preserving this building so we'll have it available as a city facility for many years to come.
Okay. That's my only question.
Commissioner, since you mentioned that, I'm glad you reminded me of that because that's something, a strong point that we can make in what we're already doing for the building so that it shows we're not just looking for a handout without anything else. And if we need more money, just going after these funds, I think will help us fundraise, from individual donors.
I'm glad I can help.
Commissioner Lawson.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I think Dr. Monahan makes a very good point when you talk about the fact that some of these repairs are going to need to be done, and it's not going to be easy for the city to finance these repairs without assistance. I think that's a very good point. I'm in support of this.
Thank you.
With that, I think you have the consensus to move ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Any public comments on this item?
Good evening. My name is Brooks Fountain, 1505 East Tessier here in Tarpon Springs. I think what Dr. Monahan has done here, for the arts here in Tarpon Springs is phenomenal. The quality of the productions brought here are phenomenal, and I think that every dollar spent is going to be well worth it in this theater. And I speak of that from 30 years of professional theater behind me. I understand what it takes. I know what it takes. I know what good theaters look like. I know what bad theaters look like. And I know that a good theater attracts very, very good productions. And when they're here, they talk about it, and when they leave, they'll talk about it. So I'm for this very much. Anything I can do to help, I'll put the first dollar in. That's about what I have. But I'm behind it all the way, especially what this town has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to our consent agenda. Satisfaction release of liens, attorney fees, Fraser Hubbard Branch, Trask, Jacobon Metz, Dano, LLP, invoice 43743, Thompson Sizemore Gonzalez and Hearing LLP, invoice 71684, Zenzao Law, invoice 13178, Tennis Special Events, Downtown Festival of the Arts, Chamber of Commerce, November 30th and December 1st. B is St. Nicholas Vespers, St. Nicholas Street, Orthodox Cathedral, December 5th. 11, authorize city manager to execute school resource officer agreement with Palms County School Board for fiscal year 2013-14. Are there any items? Yes, sir.
Number 9, 9A.
9A. Would you like to just talk about it or pull it?
That's fine. Right now?
Yeah, you can talk.
All right. 9A involves our attorney's fees. You may recall that at the October 1st meeting, I had some questions regarding some items that I thought possibly could have fallen under the retainer. These were in regards to work with 501 Walton. We were given, and I know Mr. Trask wasn't at that meeting. He may not be up to date on this, so it may be difficult for him to address any of these questions. We were given a memo which basically explains that, yes, it is true that development agreements and services related to development agreements are covered by the retainer, but it goes on to say that those items were not related to a development agreement, and it specifically points out that a development agreement has not been applied for. I just have one question. When I look at those items, some of them may or may not be related to development agreements, and maybe they should not be covered by the retainer, and I'm fully in agreement with that. There was one in particular, though, and I don't know how to ask this without sounding like I'm being sarcastic, but there's one item for August 8th that says research on development agreement requirements. And I'm trying to figure out how research on development agreement requirements is not a service related to development agreements. That one's only a $54 item, so I mean that's basically the one that I'm most curious about. The other ones don't specifically mention development agreements, so I guess it's understandable that they wouldn't fall into that category. If you're looking through the bill, you're not going to find it because this was on the previous bill. It shows up on the third page where it says previous balance, $1,851. That's what it was. That's what we pulled previously. I've got one, Mr. Kraft, I have one right here if you want to see it.
I think, since I was involved in it, let me bring it up. I think the difference we have here, and when we talked about development agreements before, a lot of it wasn't dealing with our property. I think what you see about the research is our real estate, because obviously we pay for real estate transaction, and that was our real estate attorney as a result of this commission's action to possibly enter into some way to assure that the person buying the nursing home would be able to fulfill their thing. And that particular item was him in a real estate form researching what would be the incorporation of that in the real estate deal that we would do to sell the property. What we're looking for is them to apply and go through the process as this commission told them when they came before us and wanting to purchase that from us. So in my mind, it was more the real estate that we pay for as opposed to the development agreement that was under a retainer. That would be my explanation why I would think it'd be on the more of the real estate side than the actual development agreement. Because obviously, as he does our real estate deal and incorporates that in, if they apply for a development agreement, our attorney will work with that under retainer, but we haven't even got to that point yet of how it would be involved in the actual real estate transaction and involved with the real estate law related to it. That's my distinction in my mind, where I'd say it's real estate and not development agreement.
And I appreciate that answer. And like I said, it was $1,800 that we had pulled previously, and really this $54 one that I'm most curious about at this point. And again, I appreciate that answer, and I mean no disrespect, but I still, when I see research on development agreement requirements, and I know that development agreements and related services are covered by the retainer, I can't get past how that wouldn't be covered by the retainer.
Mr. Mayor, I can kind of cut this ahead. We'll give you a credit for the $54 on the bill. I don't want there to be any question or concern about it at all. Commissioner, I think it's a good point. I understand where the city manager is coming from, but I don't want it to be an issue at all with regard to our representation. So we'll just make sure that we delete it from the invoice so there's no further issue about it.
And I appreciate that if the record can reflect that. And it's good that you're here because it goes back to something I mentioned the last time, is that it's being careful about the wording of some of those things. Not that I want us to have to pay more, but sometimes we have these type of discussions when we might not if it was worded differently. So, with that, any public comments on these items? Chair will entertain a motion to approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Tarpon?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 12 was under special consent agenda, settlement of administrative fine or lien, said 0 Lime Street, 0 Sunset Drive, Nicholas. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I have it.
Okay, I was going to say.
I'm very familiar with it. I've read the file.
Okay, all right.
Okay. I just didn't know the procedure that you would use, and so I just want to go over it.
Well, we normally would go over it and your or the attorney's rationale for doing it. This is one I looked at first just before you get into it to say I can go either way with this, whether we go with the 16 or 2350, basically because of the amount of money that overall, you know, I've seen a lot more for as the fines was concerned and lanes that didn't want to give us no more than what we're talking about now. So, but you can go ahead and kind of give a little of the background and what the recommendation was.
Yes. What you've got before you is a fine reduction request. The offer to settle the outstanding amounts due is $2,350. It's being made by Mark Nicholas. He is the owner of the property that we're talking about now, two properties, in fact, one on Lime Street, one on Sunset Drive. Both of them had code enforcement issues. Both of them were brought into compliance. Both of them had some outstanding fines relative to the code enforcement issues, which was high grass. Ultimately, the city brought the properties into compliance. The total dollar amount that is due is $4,942.35. Again, the offer was to pay $2,350. My partner, Jay Danio, reviewed the background of both those cases in the code enforcement proceedings. There are administrative costs in this matter of $893.50, so obviously $2,350 will pay for those and more. And it looks like the analysis that was done by Jay was that there was cooperation by Mr. Nicholas once he found out about the outstanding liens. He has brought the property into compliance. There was one little exception that it went back out of compliance, but he addressed that quickly. The analysis that is on page 3 and 4 basically shows that this is one of those cases where it's appropriate to allow for a reduction or settlement of the outstanding amount due. The recommendation for settlement is $2,350 if it's paid within 90 days, and if it's not paid within 90 days, the amount would revert back to the original amount. So I'm happy to answer any other questions if the Commission has any questions about it.
And I think just to summarize, the whole contention here is, and you know, from my aspect, that was the original offer they made. As we got in the process, and the city attorney, the way I understand it, was doing it up, all of a sudden he sent an email and he reduced his own agreement to offer. So obviously somebody tells me they're going to settle for $2,300 and we begin for $2,350, and then all of a sudden towards the end changes his mind and drop it. You agreed for the $2,350 to go forward. So really your contention is you go with the $1,600 that he changed in midstream the offer for, or the $2,350 which he originally offered and we were doing this paperwork to submit. That's kind of the, I think that's kind of the decision of the board.
Commissioner Tarpon. In my opinion, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, somewhat what you alluded to, Mayor, and the fact that, you know, we see a lot of these cases on a case-by-case basis. Some of these fines are, you know, in the couple $100,000 mark, and people just for years and years and years, you know, just not taking care of their property, and truly some become a hazard to society. And when you look at some of the, you know, analysis for settlement criteria, once the gentleman was made aware, he promptly fixed it. He hasn't fallen back into violation, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, for me, this is a case that, you know, sometimes when we see a corporation or a bank-owned property, do we settle for, you know, a little bit more money than what we have into it? Yes, but in this particular case, I think the gentleman's, you know, proved himself that he was made aware of it, and he promptly fixed the violation. So, my opinion would be to settle for the $893.50, which is the administrative cost. Give the guy a break. That's just me.
We should give him a break with the $1,600 he dropped the offer to.
That's just me.
What? About them. I've kind of.
I'd like to make a motion that we settle for $1,600.
Second.
We have a motion and second, roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next item is addendum number 1, change order Seminole Lift Station.
Good evening, Paul Smith, Public Services Director. This item is regarding the Seminole Boulevard Lift Station Reconstruction Project. This is a major lift station in the city. And there are a few more construction items remaining for us to complete this project. The additional work includes a section of new gravity sewer line and road restoration. The our planned schedule for this additional work would be the contractor will be starting immediately following the board approval. Work is expected to take approximately 45 days or less. We are thinking it'll be less time, but we certainly want to be careful with putting a schedule out there. And we would be planning to put a neighborhood communication out to inform the area residents of the latest status of the project. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second. Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. We go to ordinance and resolution, item number 13, resolution 2013-47, application 13-52, Keystone Ridge Estate Site Plan Application, Keystone Road at Mellon Street, and this quasi-judicial.
I'm going to go ahead and read that resolution by title only. Resolution 2013-47, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application 1352 for site plan approval for 11.59 acre, more or less, 35 lot, single-family subdivision located at the southeast corner of Keystone Road and Mellon Street, providing for findings, providing for conditions, and providing for an effective date. And Mayor, we also need to have any witnesses sworn in since this is quasi-judicial. Irene, do you do that, or do you want me to go ahead and swear them in?
Usually it's city.
You can do it.
Okay. Anyone that's going to speak on this item, if you could stand, please raise your right hand and be sworn under oath. You swear that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay. There you go, Mayor. So you're ready to go forward for a staff presentation.
Thank you. This is application 13-52 for Keystone Ridge Estates site plan approval for a 35-lot subdivision. This property is located at the southeast corner of Keystone Road and Mellon Street and contains a total of 11.59 acres. Of that, 9.57 acres are the actual net developable area. The remaining area is 1.53 acres of wetland and approximately a half an acre of wetland buffer that will be required. The property is zoned R70A, single-family residential, and the property is bordered by residential development on three sides and Lake Tarpon on the fourth side. There's an extensive set of technical review committee comments as this went through the review process. All of those have been addressed by the plan submittal from September 9th, 2013. Just briefly go over the site plan itself. As I said, this is a 35-lot single-family residential subdivision. This is a single-phase development. Utilities are available to the site. The development will have one vehicular access point on Keystone Road. Each lot will have a minimum of 2 required off-street parking spaces. Under the landscaping and screening review criteria, they have provided their landscape plan for their planting and have also identified the total number of inches, preliminarily the total number of inches of trees to be removed from the site. Obviously, the trees that will be replanted will be counted toward mitigation, and any difference there will have to be paid into the tree bank. And as I stated, those numbers are preliminary. And as always, when we go through the site construction permitting, we try to preserve additional trees if possible. Sidewalks will be provided internal to the subdivision on both sides, 4-foot sidewalks. On the endangered and threatened species report, there is one potentially active gopher tortoise bird that was identified, and that will be relocated. If it cannot be maintained on the site, it will be relocated in accordance with Florida Fish and Wildlife regulations. And the site has been checked against the city's the most recent database for eagle nest locations, and we're not anywhere near or an area of concern with that. Under comprehensive plan review, we do find that this is consistent with the listed goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan that are identified in the report. It's fairly extensive. I'm not going to go through each one of those. The plan is compliant with the levels of service analysis that are required for water, sewer, drainage, solid waste, and transportation. It is the staff's professional opinion that this application does meet all of the review criteria, and therefore the staff recommendation is to approve the site plan subject to the following conditions. The developer is responsible for acquiring all other jurisdictional permits and for meeting the minimum criteria of the Land Development Code. Construction plans signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed to practice in the state of Florida must be submitted within 1 year of the date of final site plan approval. And number 3, the site plan shall expire within 1 year of the effective date unless an application has been filed for a building permit. Planning and Zoning Board did review this application on September 16th, 2013. There were some areas of concern discussed by a minority of the board members that included the single access from Keystone Road, the required U-turn movements for westbound traffic, both entering and exiting the site. Obviously, as a result of the Keystone Road improvements, there's a median there that is fixed and will not go away. There were questions regarding drainage flow, tree removal requirements, the very large home sizes that were being proposed, impervious surface areas, and minimum wetland buffer requirements. And all those issues were addressed by staff or the applicant during the hearing process, and the site plan was recommended for approval by a 3-2 vote of the Planning and Zoning Board. I do want to, in speaking with the applicant, the potential home elevations that are provided in the backup have been modified quite a bit. They do have elevations of the new, I think they have the actual builder in tow now, so they have a little firmer grasp on that, and he can present those when he goes through his presentation. Thank you.
Staff one question, Renee. You want to have your report received into evidence then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mayor, the applicant at this point could make a presentation if the applicant's here. Sir, if you can state your name, please, and your address.
Yes, good evening. Sean Cashman, Gulf Coast Consulting, 13825 ICOP Boulevard, Clearwater, Florida. I'm the engineer of record for the project. I don't really have anything to add to Renee's staff report. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mayor, may I just ask one question? You agree with the conditions that the city is recommending?
Yes.
The city staff? I'm sorry, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
If there are no questions, then, Mayor, we just move to see whether any proponents, anyone want to speak on behalf of the application, or anyone in opposition to the application. If there is none, Mayor, you can obtain a closing statement or argument by city and then the applicant if you want to do that. If there is anything further, okay. Sir?
I'll waive as well. Thank you.
So you close the public forum.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I had a question for the applicant, if I may.
Yes, we'll have a time that when it's on launch, I'll give you the opportunity to talk with him or staff. So, what we'll do is, if I can do this, then I go to Commissioner Lawson, is that you stated that some of the concerns that was raised by planning and zoning members have been dealt with as far as you was concerned, and the applicant, can you him briefly share those with us?
I went over them pretty quickly, but I'll hit them again. Let me refer back to my notes.
And it was basically, I know that the U-turn movement, there's nothing that really can be done simply because of...
Right. The U-turn movement, that's an immovable rock, and there's only one way to access the property, which is through Keystone Road. There's no other access available or cross-access from the adjoining property. So, from that perspective, that really can't be modified. The other issues... There were just general questions about drainage flow because, there are a number of retaining walls being used throughout the site to deal with grade changes. I would be better off to let the engineer address that if you have additional questions about that. Some of this is, honestly, it was kind of philosophical. I think disagreements, just, the large home sizes, the homes that are being proposed meet the setback requirements. They fit the lots that are being built. And there was an argument about the minimum wetland buffer requirements. One person argued that essentially this is a planned development, but planned developments are defined by Article 5 of the Land Development Code, and it's a completely separate process. Those do require additional wetland buffer requirements a 50-foot wetland buffer, but this is a straight standard zoning. We have a standard wetland buffer requirement of 15 feet, and that's what's being provided by the applicant, so that meets the land development code. This is not a planned development in accordance with our land development code. So I think that was the majority of the discussion. Did I answer your questions, Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to see exactly what was the thought in terms of that. Do you know what they were talking about for the tree removal, or was it that it was too many?
I think it was just ensuring that we're doing everything that we can to minimize the number of trees being removed on the site. In reality, this property goes from an elevation of approximately 2 feet at Lake Tarpon to 35 feet in the middle and back down to 12 feet at Keystone Road. So you've got a very substantial hill in the middle of this. So, it's inevitable that you're going to remove trees with cutting and filling and creating the subdivision. So some of that's just unavoidable. Certainly, as we go through the site construction process and site construction review, additional tree removal permit will actually have to be applied for at that point in time. And trust me, Mr. Hague will do everything in his power to keep every tree possible on that site. And it benefits them to keep the mature trees on the site. It's something that they don't have to mitigate, and keep some of the character of the site intact. So I think Mr. Cashin may address that a little more fully on the tree removals if you'd like.
You say you had some questions.
Yes, thank you. First, Ms. Benson, in regards to the U-turn issue, I guess I'm just trying to picture how big of an issue is it going to be. Basically, anyone that wants to go into Tarpon does not have the ability to make a left turn, so they're going to make a right turn, and then they need to make a U-turn.
Correct.
It's 35 lots. I'm not sure how many cars that's going to equal. How big of a deal, how problematic is it that they can't make a left turn there?
We have other situations, and on US 19, that are exactly that situation, which actually are larger communities. It's not ideal, but I don't feel that, especially with all the improvements that have been done to Keystone Road, you've got a turning movement up the road to be able to do the U-turn.
I'm trying to picture. I'm sorry, I didn't.
There's a turn lane there too. I think I'm right about that. Exactly. Yes. So.
So I'm trying to picture how far down the road they'll need to go to then
eastbound
make
to be able to make the U-turn.
And how much space? If there's multiple cars wanting to make a U-turn, I don't know how many are going to need to do that at one time. But I'm just trying to envision how much space there is for that.
Yeah, I did bring an aerial that I can show where our proposed driveway entrance is in relation to Mellon Street. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover far enough down as far as where the folks heading east would make a U-turn. But I think it's about 700-800 feet, more or less, and that's how far they would have to travel eastbound before they would make a U-turn.
Okay. I also wanted to ask about the tree issue. You're probably very familiar with the city's tree ordinance, I'm guessing. And as Ms. Vincent mentioned, it's certainly advantageous to leave as many trees as possible. I understand that there's a minimum of 4 trees per lot, but more is better. I was hoping to hear from you what efforts would be made to keep as many trees as possible, and like how many trees per lot should we expect to see ultimately?
Well, we are trying to save as many trees as possible, and as Renee had mentioned, there are some grading issues that we are trying to overcome with designing the site. There's a very prominent ridge down the middle of the site. It varies from elevation 35 to 38, and then it goes back down to elevation 4 at the lake and elevation 12 or 13 down at Keystone. So we are trying to save as many trees as possible, primarily around the perimeter of the property. Internally, it's proving to be a little difficult because you have the high ridge on the site, and in order to engineer the roadways to meet safety criteria and the manual of uniform minimum standards criteria, that part of that ridge needs to be cut down. So a lot of the trees down the middle of the site are just for the part of the roadway design, as well as the terracing or transitioning of the lots themselves. It's proving to be difficult to save those trees.
So a fair number of trees, obviously, due to those logistics, will need to go.
Yes.
How many will then be planted? I mean, is it anticipated that it would just be the minimum of 4 per lot, or is there an expectation of doing more?
Well, right now we are proposing 4 per lot. We have talked internally about raising that up to 6 and maybe increasing the caliper. So that has been discussed, and we have not made a final decision. Although that being said, we do try to save as many trees as possible. As Renee said, and we agree that it does increase the character of the development if you can save, especially some of the larger mature trees. We're going to be hard pressed to do that down the middle of the site. Now we are saving a lot of trees around the front portion that fronts onto Keystone Road, and a lot of the trees in the rear portion that fronts back onto Lake Tarpon. So we are saving a lot of those trees, and a few along the perimeter.
When you mentioned the perimeter, that was another question. So people driving along Keystone, there's still going to be a fair number of trees there on the perimeter of the property, right up against Keystone?
Along that frontage on Keystone, yes, there are quite a few trees that we are saving up along the frontage there.
Thank you.
The other thing, Mr. With that, if there are no questions, then Chair will entertain a motion. Motion to approve. Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. With that, we go to item number 14, Resolution 2013-17, application 1257, Denami Holding LLC, site plan for phased open and covered boat, recreational vehicle storage, office, and warehouse project, and this is Quest Judicial.
Anyone that's going to speak on this particular item, if you can stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath. Renee, you've already got sworn.
All right.
You folks going to speak today? Okay. Do you swear that the testimony that you're going to give at this proceeding is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mayor, I'll go ahead and read that resolution by title only. Resolution 2013-17, the resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application number 12-57 for site plan approval for a multi-phase boat, RV storage, office, and warehouse project located at 240 Enclote Road, providing for findings, providing for a certificate of concurrency, providing for conditions, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of Resolution 2013-17 by title only. It's appropriate for staff to make its presentation.
Thank you. This is application 12-57 for Denami Holdings LLC. This is a site plan review for a phased open and covered boat, recreational vehicle storage, office, and warehouse project. The project location is 240 Anclote Road and contains approximately 9.77 acres. Property is zoned industrial and has a land use classification of industrial as well. There's, again, some extensive sets of review comments by the Technical Review Committee, which have all been addressed by the resubmittal of the plans on March 4th, 2013. Under the site plan review, the one thing that's a little bit different about this is the proposed phasing of this plan, so I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about that. As I stated, the project description is for office warehouses, open and covered recreational vehicle and boat storage. The project is proposed to essentially be started as just open boat and RV storage. That would be the first phase, which would begin immediately. Included with that phase would be the retention ponds that will support the future development of the site. Phase 2, which is proposed to begin in 2015, would take a portion of that open boat and RV storage and convert it to a covered storage for 56 RVs and boat storage spaces, add in the crushed concrete drives, dumpster pads, and then the second driveway access onto the site. Phase 3, which is proposed to begin in 2017, phases 3 and 4 are both on the western half of the southern piece of the property, would further convert that open storage area to two office or warehouse buildings with associated asphalt drive aisles, parking lots, and support facilities for those to support those office and warehouse buildings. So that's phases 3, and phase 4 would begin in 2019 as is proposed. Phases 1 through 4 occur on the southern half of the site, which is predominantly, if you look at the aerial photograph, you'll see that the southern part of the site has already been disturbed. It looks like there's been smoke storage and stuff there perhaps in the past. The north half of the site is relatively undisturbed, has a lot of trees on it. That is the phases 5 through 7, and those phases would take place, or as proposed by the applicant, from 2021 through 2025. So we're into a pretty long phasing period that's being requested. Phase 5 would be additional covering for additional covered boat and RV as well as open boat and RV storage spaces, additional retention. Phases 6 and 7 would then convert some of that open storage again to 2 separate office and warehouse buildings. Utilities are all available for the site. The access will have 2 vehicular access points off of Anclote Road. They do meet the minimum parking requirements as the project is phased along. They have provided a landscape and screening plan that is compliant with the Land Development Code. They will provide 5-foot sidewalks along Anclote Road. There's an endangered and threatened species report that's been provided that notes that there are 4 active and 1 inactive and 1 abandoned gopher tortoise on the site. Those are predominantly on the north piece, and so removal or relocation for those would take place during phase 5 of the project. And this was also checked against the latest database for eagle nest locations, and no concerns were identified. Under the levels of service analysis, again, there are no issues with water, sanitary, sewer, or transportation. All the levels of service have been identified as compliant with our Land Development Code requirements. On the staff recommendation, we were very comfortable. I mean, we liked the entire project, but it was the long phasing period which is somewhat unusual, that we were most concerned with. What staff is recommending approval of is phases 1 through 4, which is the south piece of the project, and we are recommending that because phases 5 through 7 are pushed out so far, and you could have significant changes to your Land Development Code, concurrence requirements, and a lot of things, plus that entire north half is the treed part of the site. We would recommend that those phases not be approved tonight, and they've come back at a later date and get those approved as a separate site plan. So the staff recommendation, this is long, but I'll read through it, is to approve the site plan for phases 1 through 4 subject to the following. The developer is responsible for acquiring all their jurisdictional permits and for meeting the minimum criteria of the Land Development Code. The site plan shall expire within 1 year of the effective date unless an application has been filed for a building permit. Construction plans signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed to practice in the state of Florida must be submitted for phase 1 within 1 year of the date of final site plan approval. The site plan shall be considered expired if this deadline is not met. Number 4, the construction plan signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed to practice in the state of Florida must be submitted for phase 2 by December 31st, 2015. The site plan shall be considered expired if this deadline is not met. Number 5, construction plan signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed to practice in the state of Florida must be submitted for phase 3 by December 31st, 2017. Site plan shall be considered expired if this deadline is not met. Number 6, construction plan signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed to practice in the state of Florida must be submitted for phase 4 by December 31st, 2019. The site plan shall be considered expired if this deadline is not met. Number 7, the city staff reserves the right to require a new site plan if there are major changes to codes and/or regulations. Again, we're putting that condition in just because this is being phased out through a fairly lengthy time. Number 8, the architecture of the buildings must be substantially similar to the renderings submitted by the applicant. The Planning and Zoning Board reviewed this on April 15th and recommended approval by a 6-1 vote. The only dissenting vote really felt that they were perfectly okay with that proposed complete phasing and thought the entire project should have been approved. So it's not that they didn't like the project, they disagreed with the staff with the phasing recommendation. They did recommend one additional condition, and that has number 9, the applicant must demonstrate that lighting is unobtrusive to adjacent property owners or vehicles on Anclote Road. And that additional condition has been included in the resolution included in your backup. I'll stop there, and I'll answer any questions at the appropriate time in the hearing, and I would like to have the staff report into the official public record for this application. Thank you.
Mayor, do you want the commission to ask comments, ask questions at this point?
We can wait until after the applicant has his presentation.
Okay, so the applicant can make his presentation at this point. Sir, if you could state your name, please, and your address.
My name is Ralph Hansen. I'm a project manager with Gulish and Associates, 272 Old East Lake Road, Tarpon Springs. As you've heard, the discrepancy between staff report and our desires is a matter of time, not the project itself. They have no quarrel with the project, but it's a timeline that they seem to have a problem with. We're more than willing to negotiate that timeline down to a timeline that would be more suitable to the city's desires. My client met with staff, and they weren't able to really give us a firm idea what they were comfortable with. And so what we're asking tonight is that you give us direction as to how long for the entire project. If it's, say, 7 years for the entire project, and then we can phase it through that 7-year period, or 9-year period, or 10-year period, whatever you feel as comfortable with for the project. And that way, we can go ahead with knowing that we have the entire project approved, and you're comfortable with the timeline that approval covers. That, I believe, is a synopsis of why we're making this presentation.
Is that the gist of your presentation?
We have no quarrel with staff and their recommendation other than the timeline.
No.
And their quarrel with us was the length of the timeline, and we're saying is we are agreeable, we would be agreeable to a shorter timeline, but staff wasn't able to give us specific instruction or specific direction as to what timeline they felt the city would be comfortable with. And so since we could propose a 9-year timeline, say, and if that's a good timeline for you, then we'll structure the phases within that project to fit that. If it's an 8-year timeline, same thing. It's just that we can't tell you what you want.
And I appreciate that. What I'm trying to say to you is I understand exactly what you said. You definitely don't have to tell me again about what you're asking. I'm just asking you, is that all that you would like to say as far as your opportunity now as the applicant to address them?
Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Nick Mavromatis, 213 High Street, Tarpon Springs. The only really thing I'd like to add a couple of points. It's kind of difficult for us to go into a project like this and not have the whole thing approved because of the scope of the project. There's a lot of activity in that area. I'm sure you're all aware that Ryland Homes is developing there, and they are currently looking at the property next door to us. So we have a concern with if that were to be developed and become single-family housing, what would it potentially mean to us in the future, where we would get halfway, 3/4 of the way through this, and then all of a sudden we would come up against potential disagreement with someone that a home being built there not wanting this, suppose, in their backyard. And it is a large commitment, a financial commitment for us, and there's a possibility that it could move ahead quicker than what Ralph has outlined as far as the term of the project, the phasing of the project. I really think it's kind of a minor disagreement. I hate to use the word disagreement between what we want and what the city has requested or suggested. We want to try to find the happy ground for all of us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, are there anyone else that wants to speak on this issue, either for or against this application? Now would be the time to ask questions then. If the commission has any questions of the applicant or the city?
For me, I don't really have any questions, but I'll say ask Renee if she could come forward, just for clarification. Right now we're talking about phase 4, basically from 1 to 4 is what's being proposed, what was proposed at planning and zoning?
Well, the entire site plan was presented, and then staff recommended that only the first 4 phases. So the entire site plan has been reviewed.
Okay.
And again, I think they're very correctly stating, the rub with us is the very extended time frame, going out to
25.
2025. So, I mean, that was just, it was, frankly, it's a bit unusual. And so we were uncomfortable with phasing something out that long, frankly.
And right now we are actually, your compromise or staff compromise is to go out to 2019.
Approved phases 1 through 4, essentially,
1 through
going
4.
out to 2019.
So we're still talking about 6 years.
Correct.
Of development.
And then come back with the next.
What I say to the applicant is that, when you're talking about 6 years, a lot of things that happen in 6 years. And you say, well, what are you comfortable with? Well, I would say, are you comfortable with doing the whole project within 6 years? I mean, this is the rub.
8 years. I mean, I don't. It's the northern half of the property, because of the situation of the property with the extreme amount of trees that are on it. Renee can attest to that. It's going to be much more expensive to develop. So a little more time, if needed, would be greatly appreciated. But I mean, if we're down to the city's approval being within the time frame that the planning and zoning has proposed, then that's kind of what we want to go with. We just don't we don't feel comfortable going into this with part of it, approved and not all of it. We'd rather have the whole thing. I mean, you say 6 years, 8 years would be nice, and we may be sooner. I mean, if it comes along and it fills up and the demand is there, which there's a very big demand for what we're doing, and we're not talking about a little grassy area with people parking boats. I mean, we're really looking at investing quite a bit of money into this project and making it a first-class storage facility, and as well as having flex space for other businesses. So therefore, I mean, if the demand is there, then we would certainly want to proceed sooner as opposed to later. But having the option for a little more time, sometimes, is very critical when you're developing something.
Oh, thank you. And Ms. Vincent, was any of this even brought up to planning and zoning about moving this timeline in?
Boy, it's been several months now since this was the planning and zoning board, and I watched the replay. I'm sure it was discussed, and as I said, one board member, the reason he voted against the entire project was because he didn't agree with our timeline. He thought the whole thing should just be approved and move on. So apparently, yes, it was discussed.
Okay. And this I'll ask you, are you comfortable, and because I'm looking at staff in terms of this project, are you comfortable with if the timeline, and I'm not sure what would happen with moving it into 6 years in terms of what happens phase 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're talking about.
I think I would just recommend if they're willing to commit to building the entire project within 6 years, I'll just throw that out as a number right now. I think I wouldn't be so worried about the individual phasing timelines, and would just, give them the 6 years to build out the project, and if they don't meet that, then they would have to come back for site plan approval for the rest of it. It would probably be a simpler way to go.
So are you comfortable in making that as your recommendation?
Yes,
that
I am.
The 6 years in terms of completion of the project?
Yes.
You have something?
Couple questions. Ms. Vincent, the Planning and Zoning Board added condition number 9, applicant must demonstrate that lighting is unobtrusive to adjacent property owners or vehicles on enclosed road. And you were saying that's part of...
That's part of the resolution, yes, sir.
I like the idea of that, what does that look like? How do they demonstrate that lighting is unobtrusive?
We would just basically have them do a light study that shows the lumens at the roadway and at the edge of the property to make sure that nothing's spilling over in a manner that would be obtrusive or too bright or obstructive to drivers or adjoining properties.
Have we had that condition on?
We have not specifically had that condition, but we really do look at that anyway when we have a project like this, because there is required on-site lighting and there is a requirement that the light not spill over to adjoining property. So it's a requirement anyway, but one member of the Planning and Zoning Board just felt really strongly about that and wanted it added as a condition, and so it's not above and beyond what our normal requirements are.
Okay. I agree with staff on not wanting to approve something now in 2013 that would have a timeline going into 2025. Do we have any rules regarding how far out we could theoretically approve something?
It's somewhat open-ended. I mean, you can submit a site plan and you have 1 year to apply for a building permit and go to construction. And it says unless an alternative phasing plan is presented, which is what they've done. Under the plan development, you have provisions for additional, phasing of developments, but there's no real timeline or cutoff point that's provided. It's somewhat open-ended.
I mean, it's not a conversation we need to have tonight, but it seems like maybe we should have some kind of. None of us are going to be sitting on this board in the year 2025, and it doesn't seem like we should have the right to approve.
And that was exactly our concern. 5-6 years, that would be for development this size, given the economy and what they're trying to accomplish, is I think is reasonable. Going out to 2027, I may not be here either. So.
All right, thank you. You're welcome.
Commissioner Beth. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I really don't have any questions. I just would like, I'm not comfortable approving something up to 2025. It just doesn't seem, we need to look at that. I would be agreeable to approving the entire project at one time and say, something like the mayor saying up to 6 years and giving them, so what happens if they don't complete one of the phases, well, it wouldn't be phased then, correct? Or would it still be phased?
They may practically implement a phased, site construction process. I think what I would propose at this point, if we're going to crunch the timeline down for the entire project down to 6 years, I would not necessarily hold them to any kind of internal phasing requirement. They've got to hit a milestone every year or something like that, because I just think it's too unpredictable for them.
Right. And I would agree with you on that. So then it's not a phased project. What if they don't finish the project within 6 years? They have to come back?
They would come back for an additional site plan approval for the remainder of the project.
Okay. I would tend to lean that way at this point. Thank you.
Commissioner Tarpon.
Thank you. Ms. Simpson, as I look at the staff's recommendation for approval, let's just assume the project, we approved it and that we approved all 7 phases, right? And in year 2021, which would be phase 5, even though we've already approved it, at that point in time, building codes change, engineering, environmental codes change, et cetera. That's something that the developer and the applicant would have to adhere to at that time. Even though we've approved their site plan, they'd have to adhere to the new changes in regulations, correct?
Generally speaking, yes, unless there was some preemptive legislation, which you never know what you're going to get out of the legislature, that may preempt our ability to go back and relook at that. But we do have the condition number 7 that says the city staff reserves the right to require a new site plan if there are major changes to codes and/or regulations. So, again, unless we get preempted by, and it's not uncommon, you get changes in the state legislature that basically says if something was passed, and then there's a 2-year period where you can't deny them to go ahead and finish the project. So, barring something like that, yes, we would be able to look at certainly building codes change, fire codes change. My bigger concern, those are routinely you build to the building code that is in effect at the time that you apply for a permit. Site construction, environmental regulations, those are probably can be a little more sticky, because if you put let's say you've put 50% of your roads and your infrastructure in, and then stormwater quality, changes, and now do we require them to go back and retrofit the ponds and things like that? So those would be could be a little dicier, but again, that's why I would be much more comfortable with a shorter time frame and approving the entire project.
Sure. It sounds like the board's pretty much on the same page with, and the applicant with wanting to approve the entire project as a whole. I think now the sticking point is the amount of time necessary to do that. I certainly sympathize with the applicant in the sense that potentially new residences could be adjacent to the site, and we all know from sitting on this board that when there's a residential development next to a commercial development, the applicant may have to come back before the board for a new site plan approval. Then you put 50 residents in the audiences. That those can change.
Right.
It gets a little bit more difficult to approve something. So I would be of the same opinion that I would like to try and approve the entire project tonight, and I think it would be prudent to do so in a more timely manner. The applicant said maybe we could have 8 years. It seems like the board is at 6. So I would make. And here's my other question before I make a motion. In staff's recommendation for approvals, you have these different time frames, and I think you just said that maybe we wouldn't have for phase 2 construction plans, there would have to be activity by December 15th, or the site plan would expire.
Yeah, I would only just keep the first one. That's our typical one that you have to apply for site construction permits within 1 year, and then you would have however many years.
So if we said, okay, we'll approve the whole project, which staff is good with, right?
Yes.
Then it would be you have to start construction within 1 year for the entire project.
Correct.
Right. But how would that work with, let's say, a CO for phase 1?
They can still do that. That's not a problem.
All right. Well, then I would make a motion to approve the entire project with a 7-year time frame, and that's a compromise between the 6 and the 8 years.
And I would recommend, just again, as we talked, removing all that internal phasing that I had put into the original recommendation. We would just take all that out.
Sure.
So just from my understanding, as we look for acceptance, all the other conditions would go away.
So I would say 3 through 6 would go away, and the rest would remain. And it would be for phases 1 through 7.
1 through 7.
3 through 6. Okay. Where in there would basically talk in terms of expiring for the 7 years?
Oh, we would need to add that. So phases 1 through 7, and so we would have to add a condition that, the site plan shall expire 7 years after approval. I can't write. Site plan shall expire. Then
I'll second the motion.
7 years of approval.
So that'd be 3 in terms of site plan expiring 7 years after approval, and then number 7 through 9 will still remain.
Correct. I'll redraft the resolution for
clarification, Mayor, if I may. The site plan would also expire within 1 year.
Within 1 year, exactly.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so it'll expire within 7 years of approval if all phases not complete. Let's put that.
So do you have that?
Yeah.
So you believe it's clear on the table?
I'll get you a good resolution, Irene.
Are there any other questions before we go to roll call? The roll call?
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item we have is item number 15, ordinance 2013-23, amending the comprehensive zoning and land development code and CRA and SpongeDog Smart Code to provide for dogs in public food service establishments, second reading.
Mayor Commissioners, ordinance 2013-23, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending Appendix A of the City of Tarpon Springs Code of Ordinances, Comprehensive Zoning and Land Development Code, Article 4, creating Section 74.00, dogs in public food service establishments, and amending Appendix B of the City of Tarpon Springs Code of Ordinances, Community Redevelopment Area and Sponge Dock Smart Code by amending Chapter 1, General Instructions, providing for findings, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. It was the second final reading of Ordinance 2013-23. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times on September 1, 2013, and October 5, 2013. And it requires a public hearing.
Anything else?
The only thing, I did follow up with the question during first reading regarding what constitutes an approved cleaning product. I checked with Greg Rice in Dunedin, and he said that is entirely left up to hotel and restaurant management, so it's not something that the city has to enforce. So we'll just have to refer them. If that question comes up, we'll have to refer the applicants to contact hotel and restaurant management as to what that requirement would be.
Any additional questions?
Well, as I'm the one that brought this forward, I want to thank my colleagues for their input and the support of this, and hopefully support of it tonight again. And again, I think, it was, as we all say, it's not so much about we want to have restaurants with some dogs outside. It's a tool for our restaurant owners to be competitive with surrounding cities that have this same ordinance and more economic development. And I think it'll tie nicely with the new dog park we got going in and the gateway there to the Sponge Dock. So thank you.
Any additional? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any public comments to this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next we go to miscellaneous items, appointment to Planning and Zoning Board, and first we'll have a letter to be read into the record.
This email was received yesterday, and it's dated October 13, 2013. Dear Irene and Trish, I was looking at the agenda for this Tuesday's meeting. I was surprised to see my term on the Planning and Zoning Board is coming up and that I wasn't notified nor called to see if I wish to continue. That being said, I am taking a moment to send this to you to notify the BOC that I would like the opportunity to continue serving the City of Tarpon Springs by my membership on this board. I might not be able to attend the meeting on Tuesday as I have to pick up my family from the airport. I am not sure if I can be back in time for this agenda item. So I would ask that the clerk please read this into the record aloud to the board so it may be put into the audio and visual record. Again, I would like to reiterate my desire to continue on this valuable advisory board. Sincerely, Peter S. Dillard.
With that, we have some rules that's in place that everyone can select someone, but what we have right now is options to reappoint Mr. Peter DeLacum to a 3-year term, expire in 2016, October 2016. I'll move the alternate, Ms. Protos, a regular member, and appoint someone else as the alternate, appoint someone as the alternate, as a regular member, and I've seen new alternates. So there's a number of things that the board can do. So what's your pleasure there, Vice Mayor, in terms of selection or what?
I would like to go to option number 3. To appoint,
option 3.
Yeah, would be appointing a new regular member and leaving Ms. Protos as the alternate. Should I give a name?
You want to give a name for the regular member?
Yes, I would like to nominate Al Parker.
Al Parker. Okay, Commissioner Tarpon.
So are we set on 3 now?
No. No, I mean that's still at your pleasure.
Okay.
I'll go. This one is for the regular person.
Sure.
If you want the same one, you could.
I'll go with
else.
option number 3, but to appoint Nils Haas as the regular member and leave Ms. Protos as the alternate.
Nils Haas. Commissioner Banther. I would go with option 3, but my first choice, and there's many good ones on here, would be Merle Seaman.
We're doing it tonight, huh? Commissioner Lawson.
Option 3, Jose Delgado.
Jose Delgado. I guess I'll say option 3 and Al Parker. I don't know where that leaves us.
That's 2 votes for Mr. Parker. We just need a motion for that.
Or we only need, okay, I thought we had like a majority vote now. Okay. Well, I would like to appoint Al Parker as a regular member of the board, Planning and Zoning Board, term to expire October 1st, 2016, and leave Ms. Protos as the alternate member.
Is there a second? I don't know how far down I have to pass this gavel or second it, just the vice mayor.
I'm going to second the motion.
Are there any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 17, appointment to Heritage Preservation Board. Let's see. This is currently a vacancy due to the resignation of Catherine Mandis, and also there's a letter. Did you want to talk in terms of your letter?
Well, on number 2, and I think this is one of the reasons why we moved these, because I believe this falls in a situation where we have to have a unanimous vote for, even though this is not like the past ones. This is, as you see, somebody who is, I'm asking to remove simply for requirements of the board of attendance, that they haven't attended the meeting. So this is a procedural removal that I believe must be unanimous. And you see from the letter that that person has not attended, I think, the last 4 or 5.
As of September.
So by procedure, he needs to be removed, but he needs to be removed by unanimous vote. If that's the case, then you need to put another member for that one. So I don't know. We might need to do that one separate and get that one out.
Okay. Well,
because that needs the unanimous vote. And there was notification if he had anything for both meetings, when it was the first, and then the first meeting in October, and this one, he was notified to attend if he wanted to, or to send a letter or information in if he wanted you to consider, and there's been no correspondence from him.
He hasn't called or anything? Nothing?
Nothing.
I did receive a real brief phone call from Mr. Doby, just acknowledging that he had gotten the letter. He didn't state one way or another whether he wanted to stay on the board. I know he's traveling a lot again, so he's been on the board for a long time. I think he just felt that it was maybe, I'm kind of paraphrasing my conversation with him, but I did want to say that he did call me, but he did not explicitly state that he wanted to stay on the board. So I think he was at the pleasure of the board as to what he wanted to do.
So is there a motion for his removal of Mr. Doby?
Motion to remove Mr. Doby's, Jody Doby's from the Heritage Preservation Board.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. So now we have to select 2 people to fill the board.
Or move the alternate, excuse me.
I'll move the alternate up and then fill the other slot and fill the alternate slot. We'll start with you.
Oh, nice. That's my
Boys,
I would go with option number 3 to move Phyllis Koulianis to a regular seat and appoint Nils Haas and Athena Clemis Sarjulius.
Okay, let's try to do, let's take one, fill in, Kathleen,
okay, that's fine.
So you got Phyllis, Koulianis, Vice Mayor? To fill that, first vacancy.
Okay, yes, Phyllis Koulianis.
I'll do Phyllis.
Phyllis Koulianis.
Phyllis. So can we get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next we need, another board member, starting with, Commissioner Banther on this end this time.
Okay, and there's several good ones on here, and this is my first board that I was on. I had to fight to get on this board, so I am literally fight. I am sensitive to this board. There's many good people on here, but in reviewing their information here, I'll go with and I'm not 100% with some of these names. Athena Clemis, and I'm not going to try and botch the rest of her last names. Someone could help me with that. There you go. Okay.
The T is silent.
That would be my choice.
Nicolette Henderson.
Ms. Sedulis.
Ms. Sedulis?
Sarjulius. Shall we entertain a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Commissioner Lawson, you have the honor.
Nicolette Henderson.
Commissioner Banther?
I'll go with Ms. Henderson.
I'll be last. Commissioner Tarpon.
I go with Ms. Henderson.
Ms. Henderson.
Maybe I'll just be different. I'll go with Ms. Henderson. Can we get a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. We'll go to item number, what's this? 18, appointment to Public Art Committee. There are currently 2 vacancies due to resignation of John Hoffman and Maria Bobotas. Additional terms of Renee, L.C. Torres and Lynn Pearson will expire on October 31st. Recommendation move number 2, Susan Murphy to fill an unexpired term, and move alter Lisa Sibley to fill the vacancy of Ms. Bobotas. Then reappoint Ms. Torres and Lynn Pearson to another term to expire. And then appoint Sharon Patterson as alternate number 1 to fill the unexpired term of Lisa Sibley. Anybody have any problem with that, or you got some other suggestions?
I move for approval of the recommendations.
Second.
Any public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. Appointment to Board of Adjustment and Appeals, and with pleasure I announce that Mr. Cole has notified the city clerk's office that he would like to serve another year. Just 1 year? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the maximum serve a year, 10 years. He's already served.
I'll remind you on this one, there's another one that I'm asking to remove for attendance. And along with attendance, there's some questions myself and the city clerk of residency, because all the mail gets transferred to Tampa, and we're unable to have any contact with them at the city residence. So, but the attendance requirement is the one that's not met by your codes, and I would ask Mr. Pavlov be removed on that basis. which is again another thing we need to do on United basis. Again, he was notified, even with his mail forwarded to town, were notified of this, and I don't believe there's any contact. I've had no contact, the city clerk said no contact, with the same proposal, notifying I was going to do this, and if he wanted to bring anything forward or come here, he was welcome to say what he had to say, and there's been no correspondence.
Okay. With that, any questions? Their motion?
Motion to remove Mr. Pavlov.
Second.
Any public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. We need to, I guess, appoint someone to fill his unexpired term. Any preferences? Anyone have?
I'd like to appoint Jose Delgado to fill the unexpired term to expire 10/31/2014.
Any other suggestions? My assumption is that with that, well, we'll see how it goes as far as Mr. Darby is concerned. If there are no other suggestions, then yes, sir.
So we're to fill the expired term of Mr. Pavlov, is that right?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
And then we can
we'll
address
go
Mr.
to
Cole.
Mr. Cole in terms of reappointing him.
I'd like Al Parker.
You just put him on there.
Oh, that's right. Sure, I'll go with Mr. Hrabowski, assuming he doesn't fill a commission seat.
Then I got Mr. Delgado.
Jose Delgado.
I'll go with Mr. Hrabowski.
Got 3 Delgados. Get a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. It's reappoint Mr. Cole for 1 year. Term will expire October 31st, 2014. Move Mr. Darby up, or I guess now it's just Mr. Hrabowski, but then whatever your pleasure is. Those are the 3 options. A, B, and C.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Mr. Cole for 1 year.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Slattery? Yes. Mayor Archie?
Yes. I guess Mr. Darby will stay as the alternate. Let's see. That concludes our regular agenda, and we'll adjourn at, what is that? 8:48. And we will now go to our CRA meeting. Now call to order the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, October 15th, 2013 at 8:49. Roll call.
Chair Archie?
Here.
Vice Chair Slattery? Here. Commissioner Larson?
Here.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Here.
Commissioner Banther?
Here.
We'll now go to item number 1, approved minutes for March 19th, May 21st, August 12th, August 20th, September 12th, special session budget, September 23rd, special session budget. Can I get a motion for approval?
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Slattery?
Yes.
Chair Archie?
Yes. Item number 2, facade grant presentation. Ms. Lemon, Economic Development Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I thought it would be a nice opportunity to give you an update on the facade improvement grant since the city's had it for the past 3 years. We've got an item coming up next that relates to it, so I thought we've had a lot of activity, a lot of good things happening with the grant. We've been using it a lot more. So I wanted to just show you all of the projects that have happened since the grant started in 2011. Again, the grant started in the end of 2010 is when the resolution was passed. It was funded with $150,000 through the CRA. Basically, the goal is to promote commercial vitality, to spark business owners to put some money into their properties, to renovate and rehabilitate some of the older properties, help retain tenants, help to attract new tenants, enhance property values, and again, to create curb appeal for the downtown business district. Reimburses applicants for up to 50% of their total project cost with a cap of $10,000 for a single-story building and $15,000 for a two-story building. The first grant was awarded in 2011. We've had 13 applications in those 3 years, totaling $90,000 in reimbursements. Now that's our 50% reimbursement level. The $90,000 actually has leveraged almost $270,000 in private investment. So in effect, the city's tripled the money that we've put into it, which is exactly what the facade grant wants to do. There's also a loan program, but we haven't had any applications for loans. Again, just going through the first year, we had 2 applications with $25,000 in reimbursements, 5 in 2012, and we've had 6 in 2013 this year. We've got 2 of them that are still underway. The Tarpon Chamber of Commerce at 111 East Tarpon, they just received approval to become a village post office, so they had to become ADA compliant. They had to do some improvements to their front entryway. Now they're going to be doing some painting. And then at 1052 North Pinellas, that's that red brick home that's across from the Riverside Grill House. There's a new tenant moving in there, and they've been doing a lot of renovations to that building. So these next slides are going to go through each of the projects that have been approved over the last 3 years. This first one is 151 East Tarpon. The actual front of the facade of the building was actually falling apart, and they had to do some major renovations there and did some painting, so you can see the before and after for that project. 324 East Lemon, this is Christopher Still's studio. They did a lot of brickwork, created a front entry, then new windows, hurricane glass, extensive landscaping in the side courtyard. This is the Tarpon Tavern. Shows the before picture. This was taken in 2011 after the current owner purchased the property, but before any renovations. And you can really see the dramatic change between what the building looked like and what it looks like today. And this is actually an example that I use when I go to other communities and conferences to show the dramatic effect that a little seed money from the city can make. This is at 1 East Tarpon. This is the corner of Tarpon and Alt 19, the Genescus office building. It's kind of hard to see, but on the left, the before, you can see that it was like a baby blue paint. The stucco was in disrepair. It was falling apart. The sills and the doors were deteriorated. They took out a grant. They repaired the stucco. They put in new windows, replaced and repaired front and sides of the buildings, doors painted. This had been vacant also since the medical equipment supplier went out of business. Or not went out of business, they moved. But I think because of this project, they've got a new tenant in there now. And that's right at the entryway to our downtown. That's nice to see the renovations there. Tarpon Starter and Alternator. This is 444 East Lemon.
This one I really like too. I mean, you can see they took the garage and created a new entryway there, put in an awning. It really completely changed the look of that building. You'd almost think it was a retail building and not an alternator and car repair business. This is the former Krusty Bread at 131 Hibiscus. Again, another example of the dramatic effect that the grants had. They retooked all the brick here. They replaced the windows. If you look on the right side of the building, as I'm looking at it on the right, you can see the before and the after. They actually created new windows, took out doors, and took out some overhead garage doors and replaced them with the arched windows. They repaired the stucco and then put in a new roof cap. And so now this one's ready for a new owner or tenant as well. This is Olympic Realty and Zante Boutique at 101-105 East Tarpon. This actually is the building that started what I like to call the renovation or renaissance of Hibiscus Street. This was done in late 2012. They put new awnings onto the front of the building. The before picture we think is from about 2005. I thought the palm tree was kind of interesting. But you can also see the difference that was made not only with the private investment but the city doing the streetscaping and landscaping and how nice the street looks as well. The Shops on Hibiscus, they had their grand opening last week, and I know some of you were there, and they have really taken the grant and gone to another degree in terms of making a difference. This before and after of, this is one of the storefronts, CCC Timeless Treasures. You can see the dramatic improvements that they made. Again, changes to the building. They actually had to tent the building and do termite repair once they started because they couldn't do any of the outside window sills and entryways. They completely painted, stucco, new awnings, repaired the sides, the back of the building, and now obviously did a tremendous amount of interior work. They've got now 4 new tenants in there, and they're very pleased. The city then stepped up once we saw that the property owner was willing to make the investment. We stepped up and we put in new benches and planters and flowers, power washed the sidewalks, and did some mulching and landscaping, put in a new tree. Here's another before picture. You can see the amount of damage to the building, and then here's the before. We should all be really proud of this project. And at the grand opening, I talked to the property owner, and she was just so happy and proud of what was able to be accomplished. And it was really an effort between the property owner who wanted to do something but just didn't really know how to go about it. The city having this program to be able to talk with her about what could be done with the dollars that we had. And then the merchants themselves, the tenants that were there that were really motivated to do something. I think the street's beautiful now. There's some more improvements that are going to be coming forward. And if you haven't been down there, some people call it the old alley. I encourage you to take a walk and see it. So these are the projects that have been done to date. We've got about $65,000 left in the fund, and hopefully with some new development we'll be able to continue that because this really is a great project. We're starting to get more on Pinellas Avenue and reaching out, outside of the near downtown area. So just really happy with the program, and just thank you all for instituting it and supporting it.
Thank you. Just one question. Just looking at the loan program, what are the requirements, do you know, as far as the loan is concerned? Since nobody's taking advantage of it, I'm just wondering why. I understand free money is better, but the thought is that that money there should be maybe a help in doing other more extensive renovation to the property. So
it's not a difficult process. we have a contract with an outside firm that would do all of the work for us. There's approvals required that are based on credit history and your credit score, as to why people aren't taking advantage of that.
Has anybody ever applied?
No.
Sometimes like I say, I definitely understand the concept of, your money is better than my money. But, the thought is if we have it there, why is the interest rate higher than, what it would be if they just went out and got a conventional loan? Is that what's driving it, or is it something else?
Well, actually, and I don't even know if this would have to be updated because this was back in 2010, and interest rates changed. But at the time, the loans were 1%, 1.5%, 2.5%, 4%, and 5%, based on the credit score of the applicant.
Well, it'd just be interesting. I don't know whether we need to market it more or what, but I'm definitely pleased with what's happened with the facade grant. I had a chance to look at and talk with some of the either owners or the merchants on hibiscus, and that is just a transformation of that street. And hopefully we can continue to do some things in the downtown area. Any questions for Ms. Nimmons? Well, with that, I guess we'll just go to item number 4 or 3, facade grant, 21 North Stafford Avenue, Tarpon.
Okay. This is a unique situation that we haven't encountered before, and we're here before you as a CRA board. The grant procedures that were outlined in the resolution provide for the application to be approved before starting any work, and that's why we're here before you today, because we have a situation that didn't happen. I've got a memo before you along with pictures of the before and after of the project, and then there's a letter from the owner of the property. But essentially, the owner had been approved and applied for a grant in 2012 to do the extensive renovations from the original building to what you saw before the roof was added. Went through the approval processes. In 2013, decided that needed to install a roof over the patio. The building is a little unique in that it has more outdoor seating than it has indoor seating. And there have been a lot of rains, and it'll pour, and then you lose all of your customers because your food's wet and everything's wet. So went through the process of the permitting for to install the roof. Talked to staff, several staff members, about applying for a grant since he had gotten one. Wondered if he could apply for a second, and we said yes, that's eligible. Went through the process of the permitting in the building. Was also required to go through HPB because of where it's located. Went through the HPB process and got approval. Started the construction and had the roof up pretty quickly. Subsequent to that, came in and brought in receipts for reimbursement, and then we discovered there had been no application. So the intent was there. The processes were all followed that the city had required. The only omission in this case was the actual application. So we're here as staff, recommending the CRA make an exception to this. And if so, the requirements would be to have the application, bring in all the financial documentation, and get the process approved.
And again, from my point of view, again, the difference when we did this, what we wanted to prevent is people doing work on their own and then coming in after the fact trying to get this. The difference with this, as I said, everything was done the way the city wanted to do. There was just a mishap in not turning in that paper to do it. As you know, we're about to open this weekend not only a dog park and a fitness park, but the whole North-South corridor project, would you say? And this building and this business is pretty much at the head and the cornerstone of leading down to our project at the end, and it's made a tremendous difference along with our improvement project. So because of the fact that they went through every step that we wanted someone to do before there was just a mishap of getting that form in, I would recommend that you as a board give us the approval to process the form and go through the process of granting the grant for that.
Well, I thank both of y'all for that. I could just say normally what I would look at is that really not approving it. The reason that I would go along with approving it is simply because of the amount of work that's already been done. I think far exceeds what we've given this for is a grant, and I think that Mr. Jenkins has really worked hard in trying to make that into the best establishment possible. And I think that it seems to me is that while we don't want to say who exactly was to blame, is that the city itself thought that everything was in and it was a go, as much as the applicant thought that everything was in and it was a go. I know there's always room for criticism when we do some things retroactively, but sometimes trying to do what's right is not necessarily the easiest thing. So for me, I can look at supporting staff recommendation for us granting this application. So, with that, whatever, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And I'd like to say as well, Mr. Jenkins has proven to be a stakeholder in our community. When you look at the before and the after photos, and it's proven he's a good neighbor, and he's done a phenomenal job at fixing up this building. And I hope that we can all agree to approve the grant request. Thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions? Mr. Bassett and Commissioner Larson.
I think Tarpon Tavern is a leading example of what a downtown business should be, in the sense of their participation in the community, their respect for the community, fixing up their building, mostly at their own expense, and also in a manner where they're, like you mentioned, they're in the historic district, doing it in a way that looks nice and new, but it is in compliance with our historic nature of the area. I will be in support of allowing them to go through this grant process.
I would first like to thank Ms. Lemons for the grant history, the pictures and everything. It was really it was neat to see the progression of some of those pictures. The first or second slide that you showed us had a goal for the grant, and it says to promote commercial vitality, increase economic activity, and improve property values by encouraging private investment in exterior renovations that enhance the overall attractiveness of the community. To me, if that's Tarpon Tavern. I mean, that's basically the epitome of what has taken place with the Tarpon Tavern. So I would definitely be in support of allowing the application to be processed at this time.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Move approval. I make a motion to move approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Slattery?
Yes.
Chair Archie?
Yes. That concludes our community redevelopment agency meeting, and we'll now go to staff comments.
I have no comments unless you want me to make them. No?
That what you said was maybe a little too much. Third period is beginning to start. So, Mr. Attorney.
I always enjoy coming here. Thanks for having me. Just so that if you don't know, Jay's mom is very, very ill. She probably won't make it for the next couple of days. Terminal cancer. He's with her tonight.
And so we're trying to cover all of his meetings and all of his hearings and so forth so that he can be with his mom. So I know that your thoughts and prayers are with him, but I just want to let you know that he would be here if he wasn't with his family at this point. So.
Thank you for that. Just a fast reminder of all the events that are Saturday. I know some of you are out of town this weekend before everything ended up getting planned for this weekend, so I know some of you are out of town, but those who are in town, we've got a pretty tight schedule of the two openings. We're going to be cutting the ribbon for the dog park at exactly 9:30, and then we're going to move across the street and hopefully before the zombie run in the area of 9:45 to 9:50, cut the ribbon on the fitness park, which would kind of coincide with the zombies and Commissioner Larson leading the way, running and doing the race, along with Oktoberfest at the other end of the street. It's going to be going on all weekend, and several other events around town that they'll be in the paper tomorrow. Because I know the Tampa Bay Times has agreed with all the things going on. And really looking at the schedule, probably 4 out of the next 5 weeks, we have got weekend events going right up to Thanksgiving, so which is good for the vitality and get us known at that. So, but please be there prompt. Those of you who are in town, be there promptly at 9:30 to cut the first ribbon and go across the street and do the second one, and then we'll all enjoy the activities at our new dog park and fitness park.
Madam Clerk.
You want to talk about the? Do we want to talk about the?
We're in the process of updating, thanks to Commissioner Bantha, the applications for board appointments. We're also looking at updating the ordinance or the process that y'all would like to follow when appointing board members, or at one point y'all said you would like for board members or applicants to come before the commission to be introduced. So we're working on a process to bring that back to you. If anyone, we did receive some suggestions from Commissioner Banther. If anybody else has any input, we're hoping by the end of the week to send out at least a draft to everyone to look at for their input. But that can be sent to me.
And we've got 3 weeks before the next meeting, so when you get that draft, is there any other suggestions or stuff to add to those? So we enhance the form, and probably right now, just real fast, the proposal is that, at the beginning of the meetings, we would have a segment where they come up and spend 4 minutes time, just like the timer, to introduce themselves, tell you about them, tell you why they want to serve on the board, what background they give, and just general, we'd rotate those at meetings so you not only have a revised application with all of the things, but we would schedule them to just let you look at them, let them hear, why they want to contribute and what's going on, and do that and stuff. But again, that's all be subject for the meeting when we put it on, hopefully next meeting. So when you get that from when we send that out, that draft, any other suggestions send in to us, and we'll prepare for the upcoming meeting to begin that process and begin that new application process.
Commissioner Tarpon. Thank you. I'm not sure what the procedures are for when a past board member no longer is, or a board member is no longer a board member, but I just think that with Mr. Delax's service over the years, being on the commission and then serving on the planning and zoning board, it would certainly be appropriate for us to send a letter of appreciation to him. And I don't know if we may do that, I don't know. But
a letter is sent to all of those that have served, and I believe a certificate too, but I know at least a letter.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it would be. I guess it already happened. But.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Just don't forget Oktoberfest this weekend. It starts Friday night at 5 through Saturday night and Sunday. So it's a great event. It's our first annual, and hopefully we have many more.
Watch the mayor open that keg up.
Oh, and I'm doing the chicken dance Saturday night, 10 p.m.
I'll be out of town this weekend, sadly, and it's like the one weekend, so like the place to be here in Tarpon. If I was going to walk the zombie run, walk it, not run it, but I'll do that next year. So I hope people attend those events. And just the second thing, as we're getting close, I know I'm going with my family to the Macy's Day Parade. Vice Mayor, you still okay?
Yes, I am.
You talked to Mr. Ford?
Not yet.
Okay. He mentioned to me something about us going to where they're going to eat for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So just, I know as it's going to get closer here that, We work with the mayor and Trish on if we're going to present them with anything or what we're going to do. So I want to make sure that we respect them as much as we can that day, because that's for the whole world to see. So.
Mr. Lawson.
No comment.
First, I just say that definitely our prayers are with Jay, and this time I'm concerned about all of the things that we have this weekend. Those that know me know that I don't drink. I might start drinking simply because it's exciting, all the things that we have going. But when I look at 5 o'clock on the Friday and then some type of chicken dance that I didn't have on my schedule, but I probably want to put it on there along with my camera so I could put it on Facebook and YouTube. But this 8:30 thing, we don't have to be to that. Trish puts everything on my calendar, some type of fitness demonstration.
No, 9:30 that's your first.
So I don't have to go to that till it's 9:30, and then I've been getting some type of emails about some type of dog parade, and they wanted me to lead it. I didn't know whether I should have a costume on with the dogs or what's happening with that. But if you can find out about that for me, but we do have a lot of exciting things in the dog costume parade happens at the same time the zombie run, and you know how much I want to run in the zombie thing. And y'all know how much I don't want to have to put on a costume for the dog thing. I might just run. But we do have a lot of things going. I think 3 o'clock there's Celebration of Life at the hospital and recreation, Halloween fun. And so all day long we'll be just having fun right here in Tarpon, So with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 9:16.